Okay, good morning, everyone.
Good morning, sir.
Okay, where did we stop the last class?
SWOT and BEST.
We talked about SWOT analysis, PEST analysis, and we were talking about different, technical tools which you can use for planning purpose. I know. Let me check. Yeah. Okay, so now we went through, how planning process is carried out. We see, we saw how SWOT analysis is done and how PEST analysis is done. And after doing these analysis, then how the process, what are the different steps that you undergo while you do planning in management. So that's what we did. And similarly, strategy is a grand plan you make for the corporate. And in this, you will have to also decide on what would be your vision statement, what would be your mission statement, and also you will decide upon what philosophies and what values that you would abide by in your organization. And we said that, planning is done for future. We sit at this point of time, and then we are actually defining the course of action, defining our activities for the future. That's why there are a lot of things which you have to include in your planning, which are which will happen only in the future. So there are a number of things which you have to make assumptions about the future. So that's why you can use certain quantitative tools to set premise for your future. Then we said that, we have to do the forecasting. Forecasting now your market size is something at this moment, and because of certain over the period of time, मेरो market यसरी grow हुन्छ, मेरो market share यसरी grow हुन्छ भन्ने कुराहरू, you are actually making assumptions about the future, and you can do the forecasting. You can put different variables, and then you can see what will happen in the future. So that is called the forecasting. Forecasting is done by using, different applications like very simple forecasting tool that you can use is you can just use the Excel sheet, apply all the variables that are important for seeing what will happen in the future, and then you can do the projection. Similarly, network method is, as I said, there are two generally or basic forms of network method, which are called the critical path method and PERT. Right? To use Garera, you can just arrange the activities of yours in such a way that which activities precede which activities will follow which activities. So if you know all these activities in order, you can put them into order, and you can do some of the activities simultaneously. So in this way, you can shorten the time period for your project to take place. So you can do these kinds of tools to see how your activities would go about in the future. So we stopped here actually in the break-even point. So break-even point is the point where you have neither any profit nor any loss. So that is the point that you have to also calculate at this point of time, then you see, what will be your production, what are the different costs that will be incurred. So the cost generally, there are two types of costs. One is the fixed cost and another is the variable cost. Fixed cost भनेको त्यस्तो cost हो जुन चाहिँ नि whether you produce, whether you don't produce, regardless of how much you produce, those costs are there. Those costs are there no matter what. Okay, you have started your business and you have, let's say, a manufacturing facility, and then the cost of land, the cost of building, the rent that you pay, the utilities that you pay, the salaries that you pay to your workers, they are the costs which are there even if you don't produce anything. You have to pay them. So those are the fixed costs that are there. So in break-even point, what you do is another cost is the variable cost. Variable costs are those costs which depend upon the number of units that you produce. If you produce less, then the variable cost will be less. For example, the cost of raw material. If you produce less, then the cost of raw materials will be less. If you produce more, then the cost of raw materials will go up. So on the basis of how much or how many units you produce, the variable cost is directly proportional to your number of units. But fixed costs are costs which are there regardless of how much you produce. So that's why break-even point is the point to त्यो point हो जसले चाहिँ जुन बेला चाहिँ after you sell your production, the number of products, the number of units that you sell will also cover the fixed cost. The fixed cost हाम्रो जति खर्च हुन्छ त्यो हामीले certain amount or certain quantity बेच्दाखेरि त्यो cover हुन्छ. त्यो fixed cost लाई cover गरेर variable cost, the number of units जति छ त्यही अनुसार हुने नै भइहाल्यो. But fixed costs लाई चाहिँ नि त्यो जति हामीले produce गरेको त्यो बेच्दाखेरि त्यो variable cost र fixed cost दुईटै cover गर्छ भने त्यो point मा हामीले cost मात्रै cover गरेको हुन्छ, कुनै profit आइसकेको हुँदैन. So त्यो point you have to see at what level of your production or at what level of your sales you will come to that point where you cover all the fixed costs and there is no loss and no profit. So after that, then your profit will start. So you have to also calculate your break-even point, your return on investment, your return on capital. These are the things that you have to that you can use, the different computer tools to find out those points. Linear programming generally linear programming कस्तो situation मा use हुन्छ भने, for example, you have number of products, you produce different kinds of products, हैन? So linear programming ले के गर्छ भन्दाखेरि त्यो different products हरुको कस्तो combination मा हामीले produce गर्यो भने we will make the maximum profit. I know. So for example, you make trousers, you make shirts. So you will have different margin in shirts, you'll have different margin in pants. And you will also have certain constraints, how many maximum number of trousers you can make and how many maximum number of shirts you can make. So there are certain constraints and there are certain different margins for these products. And this linear programming, you can do the linear programming and find out how many shirts and how many trousers combination the profit will be maximum. That is the use of linear programming that you do. I know this situation linear programming. Simulation is the replication of your system line replicate garera, you put all the variables, all the quantifiable variables and then you replicate or you produce the situation of yours. You are just making a model of what actually you are doing, and then you see what will happen. So that is the simulation biology. So these are some of the quantitative tools you can use for your planning purpose. Okay. So next one is decision making. So another important function that you have to perform in an organization is you have to make decisions. So making decision is, whenever you have alternatives, whenever you have options, then you have to choose one option over the other. So that activity of choosing from the alternatives that you have is called the decision making. होइन त्यो अप्सनहरु मध्ये कुन चाहिँ गर्ने भन्ने नै डिसिजन मेकिङ हो. सो as a manager, you have to select the right and best alternative. You have to select the right option, right alternative. So that is a good decision making if you are able to take or choose or select the right options among the alternatives that you have. So decision making is a very, very continuous. So you're constantly making decision in an organization. So this is a very important and very crucial activity that is there in management. So there are many situations, there are many instances, there are many times where you have to take decisions, and decision making has to be effective so that your goals are achieved. हैन त्यो इफेक्टिभ राइट डिसिसन गर्न चाहिँ नि गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ as managers. So what are different types of decisions भन्दाखेरि there are on the frequency of recurrence, there are programmed and non-programmed decisions. So there are certain situations where you are actually taking decisions in a programmed manner, very routine kind of situations around where you have already taken decisions in those cases, and it is not very difficult for you to take decisions in such situations. These are called the programmed decision making. So it's a regular kind of decisions. For example, how many how much money that you give as charity every year. Every year हामीले कुनै च्यारिटीमा कति पैसा दिने भन्ने चाहिँ that those are the program. Every year you do that. So that is called the programmed decision making. Non-programmed are those situations which are unique, which you have not done before. So these non-programmed decision making is more difficult. So there are programmed decisions where you have had the experience of taking decisions in such situations, where non-programmed are those decisions where it's unique in nature. I know. So all of a sudden the machine broke down. All of a sudden machine did not work. So at that point of time, then you have to take the decision what you are supposed to do. So those situations are non-programmed, and decision making that you have to do in such situation is called the non-programmed decision making, right? And on the basis of nature of decisions, nature ko hisable chaini there are three. So these are the hierarchical decisions that the management levels take. So the strategic decisions are very, very big decisions that the organization takes. It's a very impactful. So those decisions which have a very huge impact on the entire organization over it, that is the strategic decisions that you have to take. For example, diversification. I'm running a school. Should I also take up the business of healthcare, for example, hospital pani aba business ma add गर्ने किन भने. So those kinds of strategic decisions that you take. Where do you locate your business? So those are strategic decisions that you have to take. Tactical decisions are those decisions which you take at the department level, at the department. So marketing managers, the production managers, the financial head, these people take the decisions for the department. So that is the division or department level decisions that one has to take in the organization. When the operational decisions are the decisions which you take at the operational level. For example, you have to take a decision in the morning when the factory starts. Then you have to take the decisions. So what are the different products? About you have number of products as a Coke, Fanta, Pepsi, and then you do the scheduling. Okay, I will make this much Pepsi, this much Coke, this much Sprite, vanilla. So operational level, and if when machine kun use garne, how many people you deploy for the task today. So these kinds of decisions that you take on the floor are called the operational level decisions. On the basis of participants involved in decision making, you have sometimes you have to take the decision individually, and sometimes the complex or complicated decisions making are done in group. In organization, you organize in a group to take a decisions. You might form certain committee, certain task force, certain group to take the decision. Sometimes at many times you as a manager have to take the decisions individually. So these are different types of decisions that you have to take. So process, if you have to talk about the process of decision making, then this is how the decision making goes. So you see on the slide. So first thing is the recognition or realization of the problem. So whenever you have a problem, then that is the situation where you have to take the decision. So decision making process starts with the identification of a problem. Right? So what is a problem? Mandakiri, something it's your existing situation and your desired situation. If there is a gap between your existing situation and your desired situation, then that gap itself is the problem. Now you have to fulfill that gap. Fulfilling that gap is bringing about solution to the problem, and that is the point where decision making starts. So once the problem is identified, then you explore different alternatives. Yes, like kasari solve garne bhanera khojdakheri chaini, you come up with different options. You can do this is how you, number one, you can do this way. There might be another alternative, number two, this is how we can solve this problem. So there are different alternatives that will be there before you select the right one. So identify all the possible alternatives. Okay, so how alternatives can be found out is one of the ways to identify the alternatives is your experience. Your previous experience can also open up, okay, will tell you, these are the alternatives that you have. Or you can have the brainstorming and discussion among the people to find out different options. Discuss, have a brainstorming session, take the opinions from the experts and get all the possible alternatives. So once you have all those possible alternatives, then what you do is then you do the evaluation of those alternatives. Evaluate analysis, do the analysis, evaluate whether which of those options are possible, which of those options are not possible, which of those options are very costly, which of those options are economically good. Do the cost benefit analysis, see what are the benefits that you are going to get out of that alternative, and what will be the cost that will be incurred in selecting that. So on the basis of that, then you will choose the best alternative among the alternatives that you have. So how you choose is also um, your analytical capacity, your experience. And sometimes you can also do the experimentation. You can use all those अघि भनेको जस्तै मोडलहरू युज गरेर you can take the decision कतिवटा जीन्स बनाउने कतिवटा चाहिँ नि शर्ट बनाउने भन्ने पनि you can do the experimentation. You can put into program and see and choose the right one. So once you have chosen, once you have selected the best alternative, then you take that into action. That is how the decision-making process is carried out, right? So this is decision-making and problem-solving. They are all actually the same thing. Ab yahanira course ma problem-solving pani cha timarko. Problem-solving bhaneko, as I said, what is a problem bhandakeri the gap between your existing situation and your desired situation. I know problems bhaneko chai ni routine huna sakcha, very regular kind of a problem, and some very unique kind of a problem. Some problems have to be addressed very urgently. Some problems are non-urgent. Some problems are can have very big impact, and some problems are partially impacting, not that bad impact. There are technical problems, there are human problems. These are types of problems. Routine and non-routine bhaneko chai ni aba problem haru ekdam routine kind of problem haru huncha, like regularly मान्छेहरु absenteeism हरु भइराख्यो रे, for example. So that त्यो मान्छेहरुले चाहिँ नि absenteeism हुने, leave मा बस्ने कुराहरु routine kind of problems हुन्छ, and you solve that in a programmed manner. Non routine हुन सक्छ, कोही मान्छेको चाहिँ नि अब एकैचोटी for example सबै 20 जना मान्छेले छोडेर गयो अरे ल organization. So that is a very non-routine kind of problem that you face, and at that point of time you have to take the decision. Kunai चाहिँ एकदम urgently address गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ, and in some you can take time to make the decision to solve that problem. अब कुनै चाहिँ अघि भनेको जस्तै टोटल एकदम इम्प्याक्टफुल हुन सक्छ, कोही 20 जना मान्छेले एकैचोटी they leave the company हो भने that is the very huge impact भएको problem हुन्छ भने, if one person does not come to the organization and stays on leave, that's not that impact, not much impact is there out of that. Technical and human, there are machine breakdowns, sometimes you do not have a system, there is your all systems came to halt, denial of services भयो, for example, like आफ्नो सबै management त्यो MIS हरु त्यस्तो technical हुन्छ भने, human problems are there. There are conflicts, there are disputes, there are complaints from the people, there are discrimination among the people भइरहेको हुन्छ भने त्यस्तो human related problems हरु पनि हुन्छ भने, how you solve is again programmed decision making हुन्छ, अघि भनेको जस्तै non programmed decision making हुन्छ. Sometimes you can do it also in group, अघि भने जस्तै problems are solved, decision making is done in teams and in groups. So up till here, is there anything केही छ अहिले सम्ममा? You don't have any question? Nobody speaks. Everybody has, like Deepak. I have to call your names now.
No, sir.
There's no response at all. Who am I talking to? Pukar.
No, sir.
Up till now, do you have any query, any question?
No, sir.
Understood everything?
Yes, sir.
You can now define what is decision making. Okay, Pukar, tell me, what is decision making?
Decision making is the capability to make a decision in most efficient way.
What is making decision?
त्यो भन्नाले अब डिसिजन लिनु सर
Decision making is decision linu.
त्यस्तो भन्दा
That is
खोजेको
what you
तर
will write when you are asked what is decision making.
हैन अब एक्जाममा त सर अब थ्योरी लेखिन्छ हैन
अहिले भन्नु नि त, what did you understand by decision making? Decision making भनेको decision लिने भनेर त कहाँ हुन्छ यार?
हैन हुँदैन अझै पढाउनु भएको भयो
That is why I'm asking you, like if you have anything, you can just put up question.
म भर्खरै जोइन भएको हो सर
Oh,
तर मैले अब जस अहिलेसम्म हजुरले पढाउनु भएको बुझ्न चाहिँ बुझेको छु भन्न खोजेको मैले
okay. Manish. Manish. Wait, you're not there. एकचोटी सबैले भिडियो क्यामेरा अन गर्नु त. Okay, Bipan, I can see Bipan. Rest. Yeah, Jairam is there. Everybody, please. Yes, Anish. अरु खोइ. Gaurav.
Camera छैन.
Camera छैन. Okay, Gaurav never has camera. Manish. Now I can see Manish with a very, very beautiful background sitting in front of a sea beach. Deepak.
पीसीबाट आएको वेबक्यामै जोइन गरे हैन.
Okay. Prashant is there. Sonu.
मेरो नि वेबक्याम बिग्रिरहेछ.
Webcam बिग्रिने पनि धेरै जना छ. Pukar. You also don't have a webcam? गयो पुकार छैन अहिले फेरि. Okay, so that was planning and decision making. We saw how planning is done and what are the different technical tools we can use for planning for planning purpose. And then we saw, what decision making is. Decision making, how do you define, Bipan? Decision making.
Decision making is the process of making choice by identifying a decision, gathering information, and accessing alternative resolution.
Yes, our decision making is the process of selection. So when you have alternatives, so when you selecting one alternative out of many options that you have is decision making. If you have white and black, if you have two options, there is black, there is white, and you have to choose one, that is the situation where you are taking decision now. So choosing from the alternatives is decision making. So decision making is a very central and very crucial activity that you have to perform in the organization. I know. So there are situations, there are problems which are of routine kind. There are also problems which are very, very non-programmed or non-routine type of situations that you might face. And at that point of time, you are sometimes taking routine decision, program decision making, which is very, very easy. You know, sometimes you have to take the decisions which are of very unique kind. I know.
Sir.
Okay, so that is decision making open. And now we will go to another unit, which is organizing. So, you know, planning is the very, very primary, the first function of management. You're planning, so rest or sabai functions will depend upon how you plan. Okay, so planning is the primary and the first function of organization. Now what you do after planning is you also have to organize. Organizing, now you have to group works. What are the different works that you have to do? After planning, then you will come to know, okay, these are different works that the organization has to perform. Two works are like group garera. Now you assign responsibility and authority to the people to perform those groups of works. And then you also decide, or you also define the relationship between those people who work to achieve the organizational goal most effectively and efficiently. So organizing, now you have the plan, now you know what are the different activities that you have to do. About two activities are like you group them together. So all the similar works, you put them together, for example. And once the group of work is there, then you assign those work to people, give them responsibility, give them authority, and also define the relationship between those people. That is called the organizing.
Sir, हजुरको नि क्यामेरा अन गर्न मिल्छ सर?
Milcha. Okay, let me share the screen again. Okay. So what are the principles of organizing? Organizing भनेको के हो भन्दाखेरि, you know, you group the works that have to be performed in the organization. Group गर्यो work लाई है, division of work. So divide the work, group the work, or group the activities that the organization has to perform. Group them. Once the group of works are there, then assign authority and responsibility to the people to carry out those activities. And also you assign relationship, who will report whom, who will command whom, हैन भन्ने रिलेशनशिप पनि त्यहाँ बनाइदिने, कामलाई डिवाइड गर्ने, त्यो काम गर्नको लागि रेस्पोन्सिबिलिटी एन्ड अथोरिटी असाइन गर्ने, र त्यो दिइसकेपछि रिलेशनशिप अमङ दोज टास्क्स, अमङ दोज पिपल पनि डिफाइन गरिदिनेलाई नै अर्गनाइजिङ भनिन्छ. क्लियर? Organizing is the management function of grouping the activities of an organization into different work group. Once the work grouping is done, then you assign responsibility and authorities to the people to perform or carry out those work. And then you also define the relationship among those groups or among those works. That is called the organizing. So organizing is based on certain principles. So whenever you are organizing, then these are the things that have to be put into center. So principle of unity of goals. So whenever you are organizing, one thing that you have to keep in your mind is that we are carrying out these activities to achieve the organizational goal. So we have one organizational goal, and all the works, all the departments, all the units, all the work groups, they are actually performing their work to get that goal, to achieve that goal. So there is one goal to be achieved, that is organizational goals. So whenever you are organizing, then another important factor is the span of control. Span of control is the, it's about how many people you can supervise. Okay, for example, if you are a manager and if you have like 10 people to supervise, and there can be a situation where you are a supervisor and you are controlling like 50 people, then one person supervising 50 people, that is the span of control is very wide, as compared to one supervisor supervising 10 people, the span of control is narrower. So when you have a very wide span of control, you might not have proper control over the people. If you have the right sized or right span of control, then the control will be effective. So how many people one supervisor can control or can supervise? So number of subordinates under you defines whether the span of control is wide or narrow. Wider, very wide span of control might not have effective control, whereas if you have a right span of control, the control is effective. So that is one thing that you have to consider while you organize. How many people can one supervisor control? That is the span of control thing. Principle of scalar chain, you already know this. Scalar chain means there has to be a linear relationship among the people working in the organization. So there has to be certain hierarchy where lower level people will report to the higher level, and the higher level people will report to the even higher level. So there has to be a scalar chain where the command flows in a linear fashion, and reporting also goes in a linear chain. Unity of command has to be there. So unity of command bhaneko ke ho re? Anybody remembers what it is? यो सबै हामीले प्रिन्सिपल्स अफ म्यानेजमेन्टमा पढिसकेको. युनिटी अफ कमान्ड भनेको के रे प्रशान्त? What is unity of command?
I don't remember, sir.
Don't remember. Bipan remembers.
सर त्यो एउटा सिंगल सुपरभाइजरको कमान्डमा काम होला सबै.
Unity of command means the command to you has to come from one single source. Okay, if you are working in an organization, you have to have only one supervisor or one boss to command you. If you have multiple bosses on top of you, then that will not bring about effectiveness in the work that you perform. You cannot have two bosses or three bosses above you. You can only have one boss to command you. So that is the unity of command. So when you are organizing, these things have to be taken into consideration. Principle of delegation of authority. So when you are delegating or when you are assigning authorities, then the lower level people, the authority has to be delegated also to the lower level employees. You cannot, don't put all the authorities at the center or at the top. I know. So if you do that, what can happen is the lower level people will not have motivation to work. If you do not empower people at the lower level, they will have no motivation to work for the organization. So delegation of authority पनि दिन पर्छ, power पनि दिन पर्छ when you are organizing. Okay, so responsibility you have to give, you have to also give them the authority. Principle of specialization is group the work into specialized work group. So whenever you are organizing, divide the organizational activities into specialized groups. For example, marketing is one special kind of work that the organization has to do. There is another, production people, that is another specialized work. Then there is another specialized work, finance. So group them into, specialized work. So what is the advantage of specializing the work? If there is more specialization, what is the advantage? Deepak, what is the advantage? One advantage of specialization.
I don't know, sir. Sir, I don't know.
You don't know? Specialize गर्यो भने just common sense. Specialize गर्यो भने के हुन्छ राम्रो? One benefit of specialization.
अलिकति सजिलो हुन्छ होला. Specified गरेपछि अलि सजिलो हुन्छ होला कि.
When the job is specialized, then you are concentrating or repeatedly doing the same job, right? When you are repeatedly doing the same job, then the efficiency is more. Your productivity will go up. Specialized as opposed to you are doing number of different works. You are specialized in that. Your efficiency is high. Your productivity is high in such case. Right? And principle of flexibility. People should have flexibility in the activities that they perform. Right? So if everything is very mechanistic, if everything is very rigid, then the works or the activities can go wrong if you cannot use any flexibility. So there has to be also certain flexibility given to the people working in the organization. And principle of balance is there has to be a balance between how much authority that you give to the people and how much responsibilities that you give to them. So there has to be certain balance while you organize your principle. Okay, keep these things in mind while you are organizing. So what are the different approaches to organizing? How organize कसरी गर्न सकिन्छ भन्दाखेरि we are just going back to what we did, your principles of management, your evolution of management सुरुमा पर्यौं नि हामीले, if you remember, classical approach, behavioral approach, contingency approach हरु, contingency theory, classical theory, behavioral theory. I don't know whether whether you remember this or not. Actually, these are the theories that we actually सुरुमै हामीले गरेको, कतिको सम्झेछ थाहा छैन हैन. क्लासिकल अप्रोचमा चाहिँ नि साइन्टिफिक म्यानेजमेन्ट अप्रोच, एनीबडी रिमेम्बर्स FW टेलर को साइन्टिफिक म्यानेजमेन्ट अप्रोच? You have eaten everything, huh?
पहिला नै पढेको त सर सबै भुलिसक्यो.
भुलियो है?
So the 6th sem मा सबै एक्जामको लागि पढ्दाखेरि सब ओभरराइट भयो सर अर्को.
सबै गयो. अब एकचोटी साइन्समा त्यो छ नि, फेरि हेर्न पर्ने भयो अब. अब म्यानेजमेन्टको क्लासिकल अप्रोचमा चाहिँ नि, क्लासिकल थ्योरीमा साइन्टिफिक म्यानेजमेन्ट थ्योरी भनेर हामीले FW टेलरको डिस्कस गरेका थियौं नि, राइट? इफ यु रिमेम्बर, FW टेलरले चाहिँ के भन्छ भन्दाखेरि इट्स अ भेरी मेकानिस्टिक kind of organizing. यसमा चाहिँ नि, their people are treated as machines. They are doing their own specialized job and there is one way of doing, one best way of doing thing भनेको हैन FW टेलरले. एउटा एकदम एउटा राइट यो किसिमले काम गर्नुपर्छ भने त्यसबाट प्रोडक्टिभिटी हाई हुन्छ, मान्छेले त्यसरी नै काम गर्नुपर्छ। सो चुज वान बेस्ट वे टु डु थिङ भनेर। सो साइन्टिफिक म्यानेजमेन्ट अप्रोचको अर्गनाइजिङले चाहिँ के गर्छ भन्दाखेरि पिपल आर जस्ट मेड टु वर्क एज मसिन्स। मसिनले के काम गर्छ भन्दाखेरि एउटा पार्ट एउटा मसिनले एकै किसिमको मात्रै काम गर्छ, त्यो एकदम इफिसिएन्टली गर्छ। सो दे अर्गनाइजिङ गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ नि यु मेक द पिपल वर्क इन अ भेरी स्पेशलाइज्ड एरिया ओन्ली, very little flexibility. They are doing only their own job and they are doing it in that one particular way. यसरी नै गर्ने भनेर चाहिँ नि बनाइदियो भने that is the scientific management approach that we are taking. So administrative management approach ma those 14 principles of management, so unity of command, unity of direction, scalar chain, the order, discipline, यो सबै राखेर चाहिँ नि बनाउने is, I'm not going to spend much time on this because we have done these theories पहिला नै हामीले गरिसकेका छैन। Bureaucratic approach मा चाहिँ नि again divide the work, then put them into certain hierarchy, हैन, and put certain rules and regulations, and people have to abide by the rules and regulations of the organization to perform, to carry out their work. So that is the bureaucratic approach हो भने socio-technical system approach ma chahi it's not only the machines that are there in the organization, so you have to also consider the behavioral approach. You are also considering human behavior in organizing. In organizing ma chahi you take all these human aspects as well, not only the technical but also the human aspects to you consider all the human behavioral aspects of the people working in the organization while you organize. And this system 4 approach is make the organization little bit more organic. Agi त्यो scientific management भनेको जस्तै त्यसलाई mechanistic नबनाइकन make the system organic, make it more democratic, make it more participative. So that is the behavioral approach, because you are also considering the behavioral aspects of the people. Contingency approach भनेको चाहिँ नि it depends upon number. So when we say contingency भनेको चाहिँ नि it depends. So you cannot have one approach of organizing. So it depends on a number of things. For example, according to the organizational size, you have to do organizing according to the size of the organization. For example, if the size of the organization is small, you will not have too many hierarchy in between. It is a flat structure हुन जान्छ, हैन? It's more organic nature को हुन जान्छ. But if you have a very large organization, then you will have more layers in between. From top level management to the lower level workers, there will be too many layers in between. I know. So it depends upon the size of the organization. You contingency, and it also depends upon the technology. Your organization structure will depend upon the technology that you use. For example, if you are using the technology such as very primitive technology where there is not much machine intervention, त्यति मसिनको इन्टरभेन्सन छैन, मान्छे म्यानुअली काम गर्नुपर्ने भयो भने अर्कै किसिमको अर्गनाइजेसन स्ट्रक्चर हुन्छ. सबै अटोमेटेड भयो भने there will be a different kind of organization structure. So it depends upon the technology that you have in your organization. The organization structures will be different. Similarly, the environment, on the basis of environment that you might need to do the organization. organizing any environment. For example, we talked about environment, general environment, your political system, your economic system, your technological system, your economic, socio-cultural environment. Depending upon that, you might need to do the organizing. अर्को चाहिँ नि organization को life cycle हुन्छ. At what stage of life cycle your organization is. If you are a very new entrepreneurial stage मा छ, भर्खर start गरेको organization छ, at the birth stage हो भने, that will be a different kind of organization structure. त्यस्तोमा चाहिँ एक किसिमको organization structure हुन्छ भने, so when you go through your youth, middle, and when your organization becomes mature and very large, then your organization will be different. So contingency bhaneko, it depends bhaneko. There is no one way of organizing. It depends upon number of factors like size, technology, environment, life cycle of the organizations. On the basis of that, organization needs to be done. So these are different approaches. One is classical approach, which is a very, very early stage of management philosophy. त्यो बेसिसमा अर्गनाइजिङ गर्ने अप्रोच हुन्छ भने, अर्को चाहिँ नि you keep the behavioral aspect, the human aspect at the center to do the organizing. Human ले चाहिँ कसरी बिहेभ गर्छ त्यसलाई चाहिँ नि बेसिस मानेर you do the organizing हो भने, then that is the behavioral approach. Contingency approach भनेको चाहिँ नि there is no one way of organizing. It depends upon number of factors. For example, size, technology, environment, life cycle, कस्तो छ त्यो अनुसार चाहिँ organizing गर्न पर्छ भन्ने approach चाहिँ contingency approach. बुझ्यो? Manish?
Yes, sir.
Clear? Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
So, यसमा मैले धेरै एक्सप्लेन गरिन किन भन्दाखेरि क्लासिकल अप्रोच भनेको हामीले क्लासिकल थ्योरी पढेको छ हैन, त्यसमा साइन्टिफिक म्यानेजमेन्ट थ्योरीले के भनेको छ त्यही अनुसार अर्गनाइजिङ गर्ने हो. एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिभ म्यानेजमेन्ट थ्योरीले के भनेको छ त्यही अनुसार चाहिँ नि अर्गनाइजिङ गर्ने हो. ब्युरोक्रेसी, मैक्स वेबर्सको ब्युरोक्रेसी थ्योरीले के भनेको छ त्यही अनुसार चाहिँ नि organizing गर्ने हो. These are the very classical approach of organizing हो भने behavioral approach मा चाहिँ नि now you also consider the human aspects. Why people work, what makes people work, what does why people don't work in the organization. त्यो aspects like तिनीहरुको behavioral aspects लाई लिएर you keep that behavioral aspect of the people working in the organization, take that at the center, and then you do the organizing over it. That is the organizing based on behavioral approach. Similarly, contingency approach is the approach where there is no one right way of organizing. You cannot say how you have to do the organizing of the organization, but it depends upon number of factors. If the size is different, you might need to organize differently. If the technology that is there in the organization is different, then you might need to do the organizing differently. Similarly, environment might be different, so organization structure will be different. Your organization ko life cycle kun stage ma cha, if you are at a very early stage or if you are at a very matured stage, your early stage ko organization structure arkai huncha bhane maturity level ko bela chai ni arkai kisimko organization structure hunu parne huncha. So it depends, but it's contingency theory. Okay.
Sorry, your system for approach on HQ.
Huh?
The behavioral
system 4 make the things you're at system 4 भनेको नाम चाहिँ कस्तो किसिमको organization structure लाई दिएको भन्दाखेरि group ma काम गराउने, facilitate in group, do not have too much barriers between the people, make people work in group, have democratic approach in the organization structure. Flexibility धेरै ल्याउने, democracy, people may participation, people को participation र त्यो organic nature को हुन्छ नि, people can communicate freely, people can work in group. त्यस्तो democratic approach लिएर organization structuring गर्छ भने that is the system for approach. Less rigidity, more flexibility, working in group, having democratic approach of working. That is the system for approach.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Now let's see, how organizing process flow chahi kasto huncha bhandakiri. So before organizing, what you have to do is you have to review your plan. You have to visit your plan and see what are your goals and what are the plans. Kasto baneko cha bhanne पहिला, because your organizing depends upon your plan. The plan kasto cha त्यो अनुसार organizing गर्नु पर्ने हुन्छ. Because plan ले नै भन्छ यो काम गर्नु पर्छ, यसले गर्ने, यति बेलासम्म गर्ने भनेको जुन अस्ति हामीले भन्यौं नि प्लानिङ मा, त्यो प्लानिङ, त्यो गोल्स अगाडि राखिसकेपछि then you decide what are the different activities that you have to carry out. And two activities हरुलाई चाहिँ अब group गर्ने, put those activities, similar activities into groups. त्यो group बनाइसकेपछि then assign work, अधिकार देऊ र जिम्मेवारी देऊ मान्छेहरुलाई त्यो कामलाई डिभाइड गरिसकेपछि, हैन? अनि त्यो ग्रुपिङ गरिसकेपछि तिनीहरुको रिलेशनशिप डिफाइन गर्दियो, कसले कसलाई रिपोर्ट गर्ने, कसले कसलाई कमान्ड गर्ने भन्ने कुराको रिलेशनशिप त्यहाँ त्यो राख्दियो भने now you are done with organizing. त्यही हो organizing गर्ने भने. Look at the plan, look at what are the activities that you have to perform, then group those activities into homogeneous or similar कामहरुलाई एउटा ग्रुप बनाऊ. त्यो ग्रुप बनाइसकेपछि त्यो काम गर्ने मान्छेहरुलाई चाहिँ नि जिम्मेवारी, give them responsibilities and also give them power. Authority पनि देऊ, responsibility पनि देऊ. Then after that, then you decide the relationship. कसले कसलाई रिपोर्ट गर्ने, कसले कसलाई कमान्ड गर्ने भन्ने रिलेशनशिप पनि त्यहाँ डिफाइन गरिदियो भने then that is organizing that you did. भयो? Okay. अब organization structure, organizing गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ नि there are two things. Organization को differentiation चाहिँ नि दुई किसिमले हुन्छ. One is vertical differentiation and another one is horizontal differentiation. Vertical differentiation means you are organizing or you are designing your organization structure in such a way that you have large number of layers. So from top level management to the bottom level workers, if you have too many layers in between, then your organization structure is a tall structure. But if you do not have too many layers in between, actually you are organizing, you are structuring your organization in a flat manner. धेरै लेभल्सहरु हैन, अब हुन्छ नि तह हुन्छ नि हाम्रो अब गभर्नमेन्ट अर्गनाइजेसनहरुमा चाहिँ नि there is like कस्तो लेभल हुन्छ भने अब खड्दार हुन्छ, then सुब्बा हुन्छ, then you have officer, then you have उपसचिव, then you have सहसचिव, त्यसपछि गएर सचिव हुन्छ हैन. So there are number of layers, the vertical differentiation हुन्छ. अब कुनै कुनैमा चाहिँ नि you have the workers and then you have a boss. भयो भने that is very flat. There are not too many layers in between हो भने that is the flat structure. So there is less vertical differentiation. If you have large number of layers in between, then you are having a tall structure. So you can have a tall structure means there is high vertical differentiation. If you have a flat structure, the vertical differentiation is not much. You can have these two kinds of structures done. बुझ्यो? Vertical differentiation, if you have too many layers, हैन? If you have too many layers in between, then that is the tall structure, and that is the vertically differentiated structure. But on the other hand, what you can have is you can eliminate all those layers in between. You can have a flat structure. So that is the differentiation. The vertical differentiation is low in flat structure. So now let's so you know the difference between the tall structure and flat structure? Manish.
Yes, sir. In vertical differentiation, if there are number of layer in the, or there are number of hierarchy, then it is said to be vertical. If there are not much hierarchy, then it is said to be flat.
Yes, so that is the vertical differentiation. You can have a flat structure or you can have a tall structure. So that is कसरी गर्ने भन्ने चाहिँ नि, that is you see these on the top, you can see one figure there. So in the top ma चाहिँ नि you have कतिवटा लेभल छ हैन, 1 2 3 4 5 6 वटा लेभल छ भने that is a tall structure that you are having. But here on the bottom one, what you can see is 1 2 3 तीनटा layer को मात्रै छ भने that is the flat structure. So there is very high vertical differentiation in the top one and the low vertical differentiation in the lower one. So that is the organization structure based on vertical differentiation. Right? A tall structure, flat structure को advantages and disadvantages हरु के छ त भन्दाखेरि, so tall structure गर्दाखेरिको advantage के हो? So when you have a tall structure, you have better supervision and control. हैन? अब यहाँनिर हेर त, यो मान्छेले यो दुई जनालाई सुपरभाइज गर्छ, अनि यो एक जनाले फेरि अर्को दुई जनालाई गर्छ, यो एक जनाले अर्को दुई जनालाई गर्छ भनेपछि there is more control and supervision. तर तलकोमा हेर्दाखेरि one person has to supervise 1 2 3 4, चार जनालाई सुपरभाइज गर्न पर्छ भने control is not good in the lower one, whereas the control is very good in the top one. Tall structure ma control is better, supervision is better, whereas supervision and control is not that good in flat structure. High career growth opportunity huncha tall structure ma, हैन? When there are too many layers, then there is a opportunity for your promotion. Whereas if you have a flat structure, there is not much room for promotion. There is not much room for your career growth. Tall structure ma चाहिँ नि त्यो subordinate र supervisor को चाहिँ नि contact चाहिँ नि राम्रो हुन्छ. Whereas in flat structure, there are too many people, one person is supervising ho भने, then there is this contact is not as good as in the case of tall structure. Disadvantage को कुरा गर्ने हो भने, in tall structure there is less decision making power. The bottom level हरुको चाहिँ नि त्यति decision गर्ने power हुँदैन. And the slow decision making is slow because it has to go through all different levels to the top. हैन? So whenever you have tall structure, अनि त्यो कम्युनिकेसन हुँदाखेरि तलबाट माथि, माथिबाट माथि, माथिबाट माथि, माथिबाट माथि जाँदा जाँदा जाँदाखेरि के हुन्छ भन्दाखेरि कम्युनिकेसनको प्रब्लम हुन्छ, कम्युनिकेसन नै डिस्टर्सन हुन जान्छ. दुईटा लेभलमा मात्रै कम्युनिकेसन हुन्छ भने the communication flow is very good. Whereas if it has to go and pass a number of levels ho भने, then this communication problem is also there. So whenever you have a tall structure, it has got large number of workers. When you have large number of employees, then the cost goes up. So that is the disadvantage of having tall structure. Right? So the opposite of this is flat structure ko chahi advantage त्यसैको उल्टो हुन गइहाल्छ. Now talking about the horizontal differentiation. अब हामीले अघि चाहिँ नि vertical को differentiation को कुरा गर्यौं. If you have too many layers, it is vertically differentiated. If there are few layers only, then it is less vertically differentiated. अर्को differentiation, अर्को structure कस्तो हुन्छ भन्दाखेरि based on horizontal differentiation. Now we are talking about differentiation horizontally, not in a vertical way, but we are talking about differentiation in horizontal way. अब भनौं न, you can have the organization structure done in a way like marketing र sales एउटैमा हाल्यो, engineering र production एउटैमा राख्यो, finance र administration एउटैमा राख्यो भने हामीले चाहिँ नि vertical horizontal differentiation कम गरिराछौं. तर हामीले marketing एउटा, sales एउटा, engineering एउटा, and then production एउटा, finance अर्को, accounting अर्को भनेर, if you administration अर्को भनेर, if you do departmentalization in that way, then we are having more horizontal differentiation. So you can structure in त्यसरी गर्न सकिन्छ. You can club them together. कुनै कुनै कामहरु चाहिँ नि जोडेर एउटै डिपार्टमेन्ट बनाउँछ र कुनैले चाहिँ एकदम सेपरेट राख्छ भने एकदम सेपरेट राख्नु is horizontal differentiation. But if you can just combine some of the works together and you reduce the number of units, number of departments कम गर्छ भने that is less horizontal differentiation. बुझ्यो? You know the difference between horizontal differentiation and vertical differentiation now? It's only me who is talking here in the class, huh? Gaurav. Gaurav.
Yes, sir.
You now know the difference between horizontal differentiation and vertical differentiation. Huh?
So, the bond, sir.
Huh? Louder, louder. Jairam. Bipan.
Horizontal differentiation exactly आएन सर.
Horizontal differentiation भनेको चाहिँ नि if you have large number of departments and large number of units, धेरैवटा डिपार्टमेन्ट धेरैवटा युनिट गरेर कामलाई चाहिँ नि एकदम डिफरेन्शिएट गरेर चाहिँ नि ग्रुप चाहिँ नि धेरै बनाएर धेरैवटा डिपार्टमेन्ट गरिन्छ भने that is horizontally differentiated. Horizontal differentiation हामीले कसरी गर्न सक्छौं अघि भनेको जस्तै सेल्स र मार्केटिङ छुट्टा छुट्टै राख्यो. You have sales department, marketing department, you have finance department, you have accounting department, then you have procurement department, you have administration, then you have finance, then you have engineering, then you have production. यसरी चाहिँ नि एकदम डिफरेन्शिएटेड गरेर चाहिँ नि large number of departments, large number of units गर्यो भने you are structuring your organization with more horizontal differentiation. But you can structure your organization, you can design your organization in such a way that you can have few number of departments. There is sales and marketing put together, procurement, administration, finance as one department, and then you have production and engineering as one. तीनटा मात्रै गर्यो भने you are less horizontally differentiated. Whereas if you keep 7 departments, you are more horizontal differentiated. Simply भन्नु पर्दाखेरि यस्तो हो, बुझ्यो?
Yes, sir.
हैन? अब vertical differentiation भनेको चाहिँ नि यो तहहरु the layers धेरै राखेर हामीले structure गर्यो भने
This class will end in 10 minutes.
vertically differentiated. If you have not too many layers नराखिकन structure गर्यो भने then you are less vertically differentiated. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Let me. Who has not presented? कसले presentation गरेको छैन among you? Who has not done the presentation?
मैले गरेको छैन सर.
Anish.
Yes sir.
Okay, for Anish, let me assign you something, right? Concept of organic and mechanistic views of organization. Write it down. You have to.
Pardon sir.
You have to deliver a presentation on organic and mechanistic views of organization. Organic organization भनेको कस्तो, mechanistic organization भनेको कस्तो, त्यसलाई चाहिँ नि क्लियर गराउने किसिमको चाहिँ bring the presentation to the class in the next class. Got it? Anish.
Yes sir.
Okay, organic and mechanistic. Aida.
Okay sir.
All right. Vertically differentiated organization structure is you have too many layers in between. If you have less number of layers, then you are less vertically differentiated. Talking about horizontal differentiation, if you have too many departments, too many units, then that is highly differentiated horizontally. But if you have less number of units, less number of departments, less number of divisions, then you are having less horizontally differentiated organization structure. त्यो भयो. अब यो horizontal differentiation को हेर्ने हो भने there are a number of ways in which you can structure your organization. One is the functional structure, another one is the multi-divisional structure, third one is the geographic structure, and the fourth is matrix structure. Let's see what is functional structure भनेको चाहिँ कसरी स्ट्रक्चरिङ गर्ने, कसरी अर्गनाइज गर्नेलाई चाहिँ functional structure भन्छ भन्दाखेरि division of work with different focusing on different tasks. So on the basis of tasks, you have the units or the departments. So the functional structure will be something like this. You see in the picture. So there will be one manager at the top. Then you will have different departments. For example, here the example is marketing department, sales department, and services department. So on the basis of their specialized work, you will have departments. And within each department, then the people specialized in that work will be working for that specialized job. Your marketing ma yo sabai marketing related people haru काम गरेको हुन्छ, sales ma sales related, services ma services को काम गर्नेहरु चाहिँ नि यसरी बसेर काम गरिरहेको हुन्छ and these are horizontally differentiated functions. यसरी structure गर्न सकिन्छ organization मा. You have one manager at the top and then you have different units and departments based on their specialized work. So this kind of a structuring is called the functional structure. On the basis of function, you design the organization. And that is the functional structure. अर्को structure multi-divisional structure हुन्छ. यसमा चाहिँ नि अब it's a whenever you have multiple products, एउटा मात्रै product नभइकन बढी product हरु चाहिँ नि गर्नु पर्यो भने चाहिँ नि you can go into this multi-divisional structure. For example, if you have this electronic division, if you have this home goods division and snacks division हो भने, then you first divide the organization on the basis of product first. So you have one division which deals with electronics, then you have another division which deals with home goods, then you have another division which makes snacks, for instance. So then within those division, then you have again different functions: marketing, sales, service. के अरु फंक्शन हुन्छ त्यो पर्टिकुलर को लागि. अघिको यसमा चाहिँ के हुन्छ भन्दाखेरि यसमा सबै प्रोडक्ट छ भने पनि यो मार्केटिङले 5 वटा प्रोडक्ट बनाउँछ भने यो मार्केटिङ डिभिजनले चाहिँ नि त्यो 5 वटा प्रोडक्टको लागि मार्केटिङ गर्छ. यो सेल्सले पनि त्यो 5 वटा प्रोडक्टको लागि सेल्स गर्छ र यो सर्भिसेसले पनि 5 वटा प्रोडक्टको लागि सर्भिस दिन्छ भने यसमा चाहिँ त्यसो हुँदैन. यसमा चाहिँ नि यो मार्केटिङले चाहिँ नि यही इलेक्ट्रोनिक्सको मात्रै marketing गर्छ, यो सेल्सले यही इलेक्ट्रोनिकको मात्रै गर्छ. So that is where the difference is. You see, here you divide the organization on the basis of function first, and then those function will work for all the product division. सबै product को लागि यसले गर्दिन्छ त्यो मार्केटिङले. Whereas there is
this class will end in 3 minutes.
So whereas in this multi-divisional structure, you have separate marketing team, separate sales team, separate services team for each of the products. Got it? You know now the difference, Manish?
Sorry, sir, I don't get it.
Functional structure. यो functional structure मा चाहिँ के गरिन्छ भन्दाखेरि you divide the organization or you structure the organization on the basis of function. Specialized work को units हरु बनाइदियो. अब त्यो marketing, sales, you see on the picture, you एकदम simple, just to make the things clear. I have just had 3 and 3 division को बनाएको छ भने त्यो marketing ले चाहिँ त्यो organization को सबै marketing यही marketing ले हेर्छ. त्यसको 5 वटा प्रोडक्ट ले बनाउँछ भने त्यो 5 वटा प्रोडक्ट को चाहिँ नि मार्केटिङ ले हेर्छ. Whereas if you have this multi-divisional structure, पहिला चाहिँ नि अर्गनाइजेसन लाई चाहिँ डिभिजन को बेसिसमा पहिला छुट्याउँछ. योले चाहिँ इलेक्ट्रोनिक्स हेर्ने, यसले चाहिँ नि होम गुड्स हेर्ने, यसले स्नैक्स हेर्ने भनेर पहिला यु डिपार्टमेन्टलाइज दैट. डिभिजनल स्ट्रक्चर मा जाने पहिला. अनि त्यो इलेक्ट्रोनिक्स को सेपरेट मार्केटिङ, त्यही इलेक्ट्रोनिक्स मात्रै हेर्ने सेल्स, त्यही इलेक्ट्रोनिक्स मात्रै हेर्ने service team huncha. For each of these product line, you will have separate specialized functions. Whereas you have first divided into functions, and then those functions will take care of all the different product categories of the organization. Bujo?
Yes, sir. Somehow, sir.
यो दुईटामा फरक, यो दुईटा स्ट्रक्चरमा फरक